everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of Sideline to Sideline. I'm Chuck LaFleur, along with our effervescent co-host, as always, the great Ryan Fleming.
Well, that is a fantastic intro. The only problem is, I don't know if that's I don't know, is that a compliment or not? Being evanescent, or I can't even say that word.
It's like an old Eno commercial or something.
Exactly.
Hey, well, we are trying something new. We're doing something new this morning for fans of Sideline to Sideline to watch.
Our folks at Sideline to Sideline can join in, watch us recording this live, which is very cool. And now they get to interact with us, which is great. A great way to bring our fans into the fold. And we've got some rabid sports fans out there on Sideline to Sideline.
That we do. Now, for those of us who may not be familiar with the process, how can our viewers and listeners get some comments or questions into us?
Now, folks, all you have to do, if you're watching along on Sideline to Sideline, feel free to comment in the comment section. I will be scrolling through to check for your comments, and we will get them up here as quick as we can. Also, I am going on my own personal page, Zeus Fleming, and on that one, we've already got our first comment from former MLBer Scott Bullitt, who says, "What's up, guys? What's up, Scott? Thanks so much for joining, buddy."
I take the great Ryan Fleming back. Now it's the great Scott Bullitt who's already checked in.
The great Scott Bullitt, who, I gotta say, Harry Carey, one of his greatest calls I've ever heard was him talking about Scott Bullitt once during a game. Harry Carey said during a game, he's like, I'd like to send out, this is the worst Harry Carey, by the way. He's like, I'd like to send out congratulations to Scott Bullitt and his daughter on the birth of their child. Yes, that made Chicago Tribune first front page news when Harry Carey made that little slip up.
No kidding, that is cool. It's Scott, of course, from the BP Sports Park in Welland. Drop by if you haven't been there, folks. Check that out. And and does host wrestling shows, Crossfire Wrestling from time to time. Former major leaguer with the Cubs and
the Jays,
Pirates, and the Blue Jays organization.
Everywhere.
Played in Japan. We had him on a previous edition of Sideline to Sideline. Great to hear from Scott Bullitt.
And Scott's a great guy too. He's one of those great people that he's always willing to help out in the community, and it didn't matter how big he got or was going to get, he wasn't going to leave Welland, and the city of Welland adopted him as their own, and he went full board on that too, which was great.
And you know what? A former member of the old Welland Pirates from the New York Penn Baseball League back in the day of the early 90s, and made his way up to the majors. And hey, I'm so glad Scott Bullitt checked in with us, because that allows us to kick off this very special edition of Sideline to Sideline with, I don't know, maybe a little World Series talk here, Ryan Fleming.
Now, you have to be absolutely ecstatic. You are a self-professed, diehard Montreal Expos fan. Of course, they moved in, what was it, 94, 95?
After the 2004 season.
Oh, 2004 season, so I was off by about 10 years.
Wow,
that was the year you guys were supposed to win the World Series when they had the strike, was 94, 95.
1994, Expos, Montreal Expos at the time had the best record in all of baseball, and a strike happened August 12th, 94. Broke our hearts because, there was a computer simulation that had the Expos playing the New York Yankees, and this computer was never on in the World Series that year. The Expos would have won it. There was another unfortunate incident in 1981 called Blue Monday. Any Expo fan will know what I'm talking about. Rick Monday score tied top of the ninth against the LA Dodgers, fifth the deciding game of the NLCS. Rick Monday comes up to bat, and off, not a reliever, but much like we saw a lot of in these playoffs, a starting pitcher, Steve Rogers, goes in, gives up the game-winning homer, and the Dodgers move on and won the World Series that year. So we've had some heartbreak over the years, but for me, Ryan, this started at a very early age. Montreal Expos started in 1969. And my dad, God rest his soul, got me watching the Expo games, old black and white TV up in Cobalt, Ontario. And I've been hooked ever since. Nats moved in 2005, their first season in Washington. A lot of Expo fans, if the Nationals are ever in Toronto, you'll still see a lot of Expo jerseys and hats. A lot of us moved with the team. It was basically the same roster, the same players, same manager, everything like that. Some people didn't because they were just crushed when the Expos left Montreal. So for a lot of us, we just made a seamless transition. And I'll tell you what, to watch, and doing this on very little sleep, by the way, this morning, to the game ended close to midnight last night. To watch that final inning last night was something I've waited a long, long, long time for.
Now, did you shed a tear?
I did.
Did you? Yeah,
I did. I've never experienced that. I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf fan and a Buffalo Bills fan. So
wow.
There's been like a lot of tears.
For punishment.
They weren't tears of joy every time they were in the playoffs, believe you me. But yeah, it all came flooding back. And I mean, I used to live in Montreal and lived an hour away in a city called Cornwall. So I had like dozens and dozens of games at Olympic Stadium. And believe it or not, remember there was a roof over the Big O, right? Where the Expos played there. We get to a game one night, I kid you not, and we are informed over the PA that the game has been rained out. What? There was a huge tear in the roof.
I think I remember that.
Yeah. So they postponed the game. And then another time I go with my brother, and it's his first Expo game, first Major League Baseball game. So, I'm going to impress him. My little brother, we get the good seats. We sit not far between home plate and third base. We pay, at the time, oh, wow, $24 a ticket. Gee, that's expensive, right? So we're sitting there, and people were basically golf clapping in the crowd. So we look up top in the nosebleeds, and people are ranting and raving and having some beers, and you could smoke in the stadium back then. Not that we're encouraging that, and they were having a great time. So I said, fourth inning, I look at them, do you want to move up there? They look like they're having a heck of a lot more fun. So we go up there, and we had a blast. So a lot of memories, and man, what a series! The only team that Washington Nationals ever face elimination on 5 different times, to be behind in the game, and to stage a comeback in 5 different games. 5 different times they did it in this playoff, starting with the wild card game.
Yeah.
And then the Dodgers, they were down 2-1.
Now, are you someone who believes in fate? Is that something that you buy into at all? Or
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you think, like, when you hear that, like those 5 comebacks, which has never happened ever before?
No.
Is that, you attribute that to fate? Like, did you feel like this was meant to be?
I was never worried. You could ask my wife. I swear to God, I was never worried throughout the playoffs. They get blown out 6-0. Dodgers heavily favored, right? Mm-hmm. First game of the NLCS, they lose 6-0, and a lot of people are, they don't have a chance. They'll be done 2 more games. They're done. They're going to sweep. They come back, and they're down 2-1, and then they're down in the final game against LA again. For both those games, they're down. They come back, win, sweep the Cardinals, and then against Houston, best record in baseball.
Right.
The Nationals. Buddy of mine was an Expo fan, didn't make the transition to the Nationals. They don't have a hope in hell against the Houston Astros in this series, right? And sure enough, they lose the 3 games at home, and the wheels have just fallen off. They score 3 runs in 3 games. And again, I never panicked. I told my wife, we're going on the road. The team seemed looser on the road, and I think that has a lot to do.
Less pressure?
Yeah, you know what? Buck Martinez was explaining it as well on the TV broadcast. Now, if you're at home, you've got family that wants to get a hold of you. They're looking for tickets. You've got friends. You've got all these distractions. The Nationals lost all 3 games at home. They go back to Houston. Everyone's counting them out. Don't worry about it. They're loosey-goosey. You see them in the dugout. They're dancing. And by the way, I want to see you before this show is done. Do the baby shark.
The baby shark?
Are you familiar with it?
Baby shark, the shark, the baby. Sadly, yes, I am.
Needs a little work there, but you're on the right track, right?
No, it was an amazing win, and well deserved. Like a long time coming, and I think the best part about this all is at the beginning of the year, our boy that got traded called it. He called it in his press conference, said that the Nats were going to win, trying to say that his new team, the Phillies, were going to win.
Are we allowed to say this on this show, that Bryce Harper can kiss my butt? Are we allowed to say that?
I think
we can't?
so.
Oh, good. I think I might have just done that. Everybody, from before the season started, counted the Nationals, said, oh, we've lost our superstar player, Bryce Harper. I didn't see the Philadelphia Phillies where he went for $330 million in the playoffs this year. So, so Bryce Harper, 3 hours sleep reminded. Bryce Harper, nanner to you son of a gun.
Mike Stinesny chiming in and saying, if I'm not mistaken, the Nationals won all of their World Series games on the road. Something that has never been done before.
And thanks for that.
Which you were just saying, yeah.
Absolutely. The only team ever to win 4 games on the road and capture a World Series before. So, it's
team of destiny, yeah.
Yep,
and the funny thing is when the Cubs finally won, it's kind of the same way for me as well. It was like, I don't think I was ever worried during that run. It was just like, I know this is going to happen. Like, this is a year. And, we had, 118 years, leading up to that.
I think since, the Roman Empire times or something, where the Cubs hadn't won, right? But it's the same thing. Final example, I was so nervous yesterday. Butterflies, Game 7, wait 50 years for this to happen. Game time starts, and all day long, I'm just a bundle of nerves. Game starts, and a calm comes over me. My wife and I, we have to get up early, obviously, to do the morning show on Giant FM, so we make it through 4 innings. It's 2-0 when we go to sleep for the Houston Astros. They've just gone ahead. And my wife said, oh, not looking good. I said, don't worry about a thing. We got them right where we want them. We trailed again. I wake up, turn the TV on. Nats are up 6-2 in the 9th inning. And Yeehaw.
It was amazing. I turned it on, I think, about the 6th or 7th inning, and they were still down. I tuned in on the inning where they hit those 2 big home runs. And the second home run, nobody was really sure at first because it hit the foul pole. So
Again, destiny.
right down the line. Yeah, exactly.
And
It's a game of inches. And the very next inning, was it Soto on the other team, or I forget who is on the other team? He hit one to almost the exact same spot, and his few inches were a little to the right.
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet. Going to watch the entire game tonight. Looking forward to that. But but that's the thing I think helped the Nats in the wild card game. I remember in the outfield, ball under an outfielder's glove against the Cardinals. The Nats were getting the breaks. They were getting the little bloop singles that were falling in. Balls that could have been foul had they gone 6 inches the other way were staying fair. Houston in the 3 games in Washington got those breaks, and you could tell almost from the very first batter, a little nibbler up into the infield, and he's safe. I told my wife right away, we're going to lose this game. They're not getting the breaks. They did again in Washington with some close calls. And I got to mention the umpiring too before we wrap up here, because
everybody wants to harp on
holy mackerel, the call against Bryce Turner. Scott Bullitt, let us know what you think of that if you're still on board, because what's the guy to do? And Joe Torre, who I've always had great respect for, with all those Boston World Series winners with the New York Yankees. He's representing the umpires, in charge of the umpires, Major League Baseball, and he looked like Ralph Cramden from the Honeymoon Guy. His explanation made no sense. Of course, he has to have their back, but it was a BS call, and any baseball player will tell you, maybe that's the letter of the law, but it's a stupid rule.
Exactly, especially when you're a lefty coming out of the batting box like that too. Like, where are you supposed to go? It's just it was a bad call, and Joe Torre, like you said, kind of looked ridiculous. He as you said, Ralph Cramden, just backpedaling as much as he possibly could.
And one other thing, the umpire, who I don't know what he told Dave Martinez, but if you saw it, Dave Martinez went pretty much berserk, and he's one of the most easygoing guys in baseball. Umpires should never stand there and chirp a manager or a player. They go right by the Nats dugout. You're asking for trouble, buddy.
Exactly.
And he's standing there with this obnoxious smirk on
little
his
grin,
face.
yeah.
If it was legal, I just wanted to punch him in the throat, right? But
that's when you want
illegal.
to see the hockey rules put into baseball.
Yeah. So, it's just meant to be, and wow.
Yeah, it's good, and it was a great win, and a well-deserved one at that. Now, baseball season's over now. Now it's time. Now this is my favorite time of year. Baseball season, wrapping up, playoffs and stuff. That's the best time of baseball for me, is the playoffs. And now you've got hockey, you got basketball's back, and you got football. And you know what? I'm feeling pretty good this year. I got my Cubs won a couple years ago. My Raptors won last year. I'm thinking this might be the year for either my Sabres or my Vikings.
A lot of us haven't had a chance to follow, the Raptors, be it the Sabres, the Leafs. Bills, they're on Sundays, the only game in town Sunday afternoon, but because we watched, I kid you not, 17 baseball games in the month of October in their entirety, either recorded or live. That's a lot. But, surprise, surprise, for anyone at the start of the season who was thinking, well, same old Sabres, your Sabres have been, I would think, along with the Edmonton Oilers, the surprise stories of the National Hockey League in the month of October.
Yeah, the Oilers, for one, leading the Western Conference. They're at 9-4-1 right now, which is completely unheard of, which is expected with all the first-round draft picks, number one overall draft picks they've had over the years. But in the East, we've got Washington at 9-2-3. Those evil Boston Bruins at 9-1-2. Yeah, I said evil Boston Bruins. And the Sabres right there with them at 9-2-2. What an amazing team!
What's been the difference? You think the coaching, Ralph Kruger coming over?
Kruger's got this team playing. He's got them playing fantastic. They're in every game. They're not giving up on themselves when they're down either, which is just huge. And just man, Jack Eichel. We knew Jack Eichel had talent, but we also knew Jack Eichel had this chip on his shoulder that is a little hard to get past. But it seems like that chip's maybe wearing away a little bit, and maybe he's easing up a little bit because he's seeming to smile a lot more than I've ever seen him do in his previous few years here.
You know what? He's the leader of that team. There's no question about it. And I think as he matures, the talent has always been there. And with a lot of these younger guys, it's how do they adjust, and mentally how do they cope? And all of a sudden these guys are multimillionaires. But Eichel, I think, is starting the maturation process. and he is signed long term, so the Sabres looking mighty good moving forward.
for sure.
Which brings us to the mighty Maple Leafs, not off to the best
Right.
start that, I mean, granted they've been without John Tavares for a couple of weeks, but not the start their
Right.
fans were hoping for.
You guys signed Mitch, and you guys were like, "Oh, this is our year." You guys had the parade route all set. What's going on? At this rate, you guys aren't even going to make the playoffs. Is this the most overrated Leafs team in the history of the Leafs?
Depth.
That's my question.
I think depth's the serious problem. You lose Tavares, and all of a sudden you look, who do the Maple Leafs have? Yeah, Marner, exceptional talent, not the start. You know, he's being paid like a superstar player. These guys, Austin Matthews being another one, William Nylander, well, if we really don't want to get into his contract situation and how that ever happened, but the superstar players have to play like superstars because you look beyond the nucleus of the team, Freddie Anderson and goal, Morgan Riley on defense. A lot of the other guys, you know, the number 4, 5, 6 defensemen, third and fourth, I love Freddie Gauthier. But a lot of these other guys, the supporting cast has to come through. And I don't know if the talent is there. And I'll tell you this right now about the Maple Leafs. They get to the playoffs and they get against a physical team. That to me, and I know a lot of the media types just love the way the Leafs are built. And we are so skilled.
Right.
You got to have toughness when it comes to playoffs. Without it, they're not getting out of the first round again.
No, and you know, okay, part of me wants to blame Dubas a little bit here.
All of me does.
You know, and everyone was singing his praises at the beginning of the season. How good would the Leafs be right now if they still had Nazem?
Well,
if they still had Kadri?
That's the thing. And look at Colorado.
You know, that's your depth right there. Yep. And Colorado, right, exactly. Mm-hmm. They're number 2 in the West right now, right behind Edmonton. And I'm not saying that's all because of Kadri, but, you know, having that veteran experience out there, that guy who can go out there and get you that grit goal. He's not going to be the guy that's going to get you the go-ahead goal or anything like that, but he's the guy that's going to get you that insurance goal, or he's going to make the safe plays.
You know, the thing to me, Kyle Dubas, and I know one of the reasons he was hired, he's into, baseball has sabermetrics and hockey has analytics, and he's big time into that, right? Well, I'll tell you what, analytics cannot supply you with heart.
No.
Look at Ryan Zimmerman, going back to the Nationals, you know, statistically, not the best. Heart-wise, determination-wise, dedication, loyalty-wise, you don't get that from analytics. So take your analytics and you know what?
Do you think Matthews has that? Because that's the one thing that I don't know that I've ever seen out of Matthews is that heart. You know, and it was the one thing that some people used to ride Eichel a little bit about, but that was the one thing I'd say he always had was maybe too much heart and too much pride. But Matthews just seems very lackadaisical, like very laissez-faire, as they say.
And I worry about the direction Austin Matthews may be going in with well-documented off-ice, an off-ice problem that he had on the ice. The talent is there, but when push comes to shove, he's no Darryl Sittler. I'm going to leave it at that.
Fair enough, but who is? Wow. Well, this was a pretty exciting first episode we did there, going with the live stream there, having our fans join in.
Well, we want to talk about the next time around the Buffalo Bills and the Minnesota Vikings.
Most definitely. Listen, I think this is the year, and I know I don't say this very often, and I know Kirk Cousins is a bit of a question mark. But I do believe we're one of those teams in the NFC that is flying a little bit under the radar, and some people are taking us lightly. Now, the more trash people talk about Kirk Cousins, the better he seems to play. And I'm hoping it just continues that way.
If you went to Minnesota, have you ever been to a Vikings home game?
I've never been to Minnesota. That is a dream.
If you did, quick question, would you actually dress up like a Viking?
No.
Good.
You know, I haven't been, and you know, it's funny because everyone knows about my geek pastime, and I like to go out to these conventions and stuff. I've never cosplayed in my life, and the last time I was in costume was, I managed a bar about 10 years ago, and
What'd you dress as?
I don't want to say, but
you were young and needed the money. I understand
I was young
completely.
And needed the money, but
someone just asked online. You have to say.
yeah, no,
You have to. That's the rule of the show, by the way, with our new format. They ask
I
live.
was younger, and let me say, right now I apologize already, but I dressed in whiteface.
Well, we probably should wrap up this.
You asked, and it's out there now. But yes, the Vikings. Yes, we're looking forward to a good season. Yeah, but the Vikings. Hey, maybe this is the year for the Vikings and the Bills. This is the way that I get out of that bit right there.
Go, Josh Allen. Let's go, Bills. Yay, Nats.
Go, Kirk Cousins. But yeah, no, this was a lot of fun, and I can't wait for our next show though when we get. It's just going to become more and more. And what I'm going to try to do next week for the folks, next time we're on and live stream, see what we can do about maybe having a little bit of swag for some of our fans. Maybe get some, maybe the best question of the show. We can have some kind of a little prize for them.
Let's do it, man. It's been a blast. And as you can tell from a few moments ago, we have been live.
Yes, we have. For Chuck LaFleur, I am your co-host, Ryan Fleming, and it's been another fun edition of Sideline to Sideline on Giant TV.